Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into some tips for becoming more fluent in English.
Awesome.
We found some pretty cool material online, and I think it's going to have some stuff that's helpful for you guys no matter what level you're at.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you prepping for like a vacation abroad or a big presentation at work?
Or maybe you just want to, kind of brush up on your skills.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always good to be working on your fluency.
Totally.
Yeah.
And this material that we found, it's interesting because it breaks fluency down into like 4 main parts.
Okay.
Which are listening vocab, question and answer practice,
Right.
and then this thing called shadowing.
Interesting.
Have you heard of that before?
I have. Yeah, shadowing is a really cool technique. I think we should talk more about that later on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And, what do you think about breaking it down into those 4 things?
I think that's a really solid approach, actually, because
Yeah.
when you think about it, fluency isn't just about, like, knowing a ton of words.
Right?
It's about being able to use those words effectively in real conversations.
It's about confidence and putting it all together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to be able to listen and understand what other people are saying. You need to be able to express your own thoughts clearly.
Yeah,
And you need to be able to do it all with confidence.
totally. And, it's funny because one of the example conversations we have from this material is all about like procrastination,
Oh, really?
putting off English practice.
Oh, that's so relatable.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, I know I should be practicing more, but then I get busy or I just don't feel like it.
Or you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow. And then, of course, tomorrow never comes.
Right. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I have that trip next week.
Exactly.
But this material, it actually uses that whole procrastination thing to teach some new vocab,
Okay.
like the phrasal verb to put off, which basically means to postpone something,
Right.
and then the noun procrastinator, which is a person who puts things off,
Yeah. I think we all know a few procrastinators.
probably including ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's cool how they're like using this real life situation to teach these words.
Yeah.
It's because it makes it more memorable.
Absolutely, because you're not just like memorizing a definition from a dictionary.
Right.
You're seeing how the word is actually used in context.
Totally. And they emphasize that you should like repeat these exercises for a whole week
Oh, wow.
to really like get it down.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Like the whole repetition thing?
I think repetition is super important for language learning,
Yeah.
but it's not just about mindlessly repeating things over and over again.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about actively engaging with the material.
Okay.
So, for example, when you're learning a new word, don't just repeat it a few times and then move on.
Yeah.
Try to use it in a sentence, write it down, create flashcards, whatever works for you.
Make it your own.
Exactly.
Make those connections.
Yeah, the more you interact with the material, the better you'll remember it.
I-
And that's how you build fluency.
So you're saying it's not just about quantity, it's about quality.
Exactly.
Okay. And then the last thing that we mentioned from this material was shadowing.
Right.
So basically,
it.
from what I understand, it's like you listen to a native speaker
Mm-hmm.
and you try to like copy them exactly.
Yeah, you're basically trying to imitate their pronunciation, their rhythm, their intonation, everything.
Like you're their shadow.
Exactly.
Okay. So how does that help you become more fluent, though?
Well, think about it. When you're shadowing, you're training your mouth and your brain to produce the sounds of the language correctly.
Okay.
You're also getting a feel for the natural rhythm and flow of English.
Right.
And that's super important for sounding natural and fluent.
Okay. So it's like you're absorbing the music of the language
Exactly.
through this like imitation process.
Yes, and the more you practice shadowing, the more comfortable you'll become with the sounds and rhythms of English.
Awesome. Okay. So we've got listening, we've got vocab, we've got question and answer practice, and then we've got this shadowing technique.
Yeah, I think those are all really valuable tools for improving fluency.
Totally. So where do you want to go from here?
Well, I think it would be helpful to actually listen to some of the example conversations from this material
Okay.
and see how these techniques are being used in practice.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Let's dive in and see what we can learn.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Me too.
Let's do it.
Welcome back, you guys. So we were just talking about shadowing, right? And how it can help you sound more natural and fluent.
Yeah, it's a really cool technique.
Yeah, and I think it connects really well with something else we were talking about earlier,
What's that?
confidence.
Oh, yeah. So,
Well, when you shadow native speakers, you're basically absorbing their confidence along with their pronunciation and their rhythm.
that's interesting.
Yeah, you're kind of like taking on their energy and their fluency.
Okay, so it's like you're not just learning the words, you're learning the feeling of fluency.
Exactly. Yeah. And that feeling is so important
It is.
because when you feel confident in your English, you're more likely to speak up, more likely to engage in conversations.
Right. And that's how you really improve.
Totally. It's all about getting out there and using the language.
So would you say that shadowing is good for learners at all levels, like beginners, intermediate, advanced?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think shadowing can be beneficial for everyone because
Yeah.
it helps you develop a better ear for the language
Got it.
and it helps you fine-tune your pronunciation no matter what your starting point is.
Okay, cool. Um, so I've actually tried shadowing before,
Oh, yeah.
but I always feel a little bit awkward, like I'm just mimicking without really understanding.
I get it.
Like, how do I make sure I'm actually learning from it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh,
I think the key is to be an active listener while you're shadowing.
okay.
So don't just focus on the sounds, pay attention to the meaning as well. Try to understand what the speaker is saying, why they're saying it, how they're using their voice to convey their message.
So it's like I need to engage my brain as well as my mouth.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to be fully present in the moment
Type of thing.
and really absorb the language on a deeper level.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about pronunciation, it's about comprehension too.
Precisely.
Okay. Are there any other tips for shadowing? Like any specific things that I should be focusing on?
Yeah, I would say try to start with shorter phrases or sentences at first,
Okay.
and then gradually increase the length as you get more comfortable.
Okay. So start small.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to slow down the audio if you need to.
Yeah.
You can always speed it up later as you get more proficient.
Got it.
And remember, it's better to shadow a short phrase perfectly than to rush through a long sentence and get it all wrong.
Right. Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. So we've talked a lot about shadowing.
Yeah.
But what about active listening?
Right.
How does that fit into the whole fluency picture?
Well, active listening is super important because it helps you understand spoken English in real-world situations.
Okay.
So it's not just about listening to podcasts or watching movies. It's
Yeah.
about being able to follow conversations, understand instructions, get the gist of what someone is saying to you.
In real time.
Exactly.
So are there like specific strategies for active listening?
Yeah, there are definitely things you can do to improve your active listening skills.
Okay. Like what?
Well, one thing is to ask yourself questions while you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the main point of this conversation?
Oh,
Or
gee.
who are the speakers? What are their relationships to each other?
Okay. So like engaging with the material.
Yeah, exactly. And try to predict what's going to happen next.
Okay.
Or what the speaker is going to say next.
So like almost turning it into a game?
Yeah, in a way.
Okay. I like that.
The more you actively engage with what you're listening to, the more you'll get out of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about shadowing. We've talked about active listening.
Right.
What about the mental side of things?
Right. The mental side.
Yeah. Like how does our mindset affect our ability to learn English?
Ooh, that's a great question.
It is.
I think mindset is absolutely crucial when it comes to language learning.
Okay. In what way?
Well, if you have a negative attitude, if you're constantly doubting yourself,
Yeah.
if you're focusing on your mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be really hard to make progress.
Right. It's like you're already setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, exactly. You're creating this mental block that prevents you from learning.
Okay. But what if I am like a naturally negative person?
Okay.
Like how do I change that?
Well, it takes time and effort, but it's definitely possible to shift your mindset.
Okay.
One thing you can try is to focus on your progress,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how small it may seem.
It's like celebrate the little wins.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ah.
Every time you learn a new word, every time you have a successful conversation,
Yeah.
give yourself a pat on the back, acknowledge your accomplishments.
So it's about focusing on the positive rather than the negative.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, learning a language is a journey, not a destination.
Right. It's not about being perfect. It's about constantly growing and improving.
Oh, exactly.
Okay. I like that. Are there any other like specific techniques for developing a more positive mindset?
Yeah, there are a few things you can try. One technique that's really helpful is called affirmations.
Affirmations.
Yeah.
You know those.
Well, basically, affirmations are positive statements that you repeat to yourself,
Right.
either out loud or silently.
Okay.
And these statements can be about anything you want to achieve or any quality you want to develop.
Okay. So for language learning, it might be something like, I am a confident English speaker.
Exactly. Yeah. Or I am learning English quickly and easily.
Okay.
Or I am enjoying the process of learning English.
So it's like you're retraining your brain to think positive thoughts.
Yes,
Yeah.
precisely. And the more you repeat these affirmations, the more you start to believe them.
Okay, cool. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about shadowing, active listening, mindset.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
Well, I think it's time to get practical.
Okay.
Let's talk about some specific strategies and resources that people can use to improve their English fluency.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so, we were talking about mindset and affirmations and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so important.
It really is. I think it's one of the most overlooked aspects of language learning. People get so caught up in grammar rules and vocabulary lists
Right.
that they forget about the power of their own thoughts.
Totally. Like, if you believe you can do it, you're way more likely to actually do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this ties back to something we were talking about earlier,
What's that?
the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah, right?
A lot of people are so afraid of making mistakes that they avoid speaking English altogether.
Like, it's like the worst thing you could
Well,
do.
totally. Yeah, because the more you speak, the more you're going to make mistakes. But that's okay. That's how you learn.
It's part of the process.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think if you can shift your mindset to view mistakes as opportunities for growth, then you're going to be so much more successful in your language learning journey.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Like, how do we embrace those mistakes?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, even native speakers?
Exactly. Yeah, nobody's perfect.
Okay.
And in fact, I think mistakes can be really valuable learning experiences.
Okay. How so?
Well, when you make a mistake, you're basically getting feedback on what you need to work on.
Right. It's
Right.
like a signpost pointing you in the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah, so instead of getting discouraged when you make a mistake, try to see it as an opportunity to learn and improve.
Okay, but what if I'm in a conversation with someone
Yeah.
and I make a mistake and I feel like they're judging me?
Okay, well, first of all, most people are not going to judge you for making a mistake.
Really?
Yeah, they're probably just trying to understand what you're saying.
Right.
And if they do notice a mistake, they're probably not going to think any less of you.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, and honestly, most people are more impressed by someone who's trying to learn a new language than they are by someone who's afraid to speak up because they might make a mistake.
Right, so it's better to try and maybe make a mistake than to not try at all.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of mindset. We've talked about embracing mistakes.
Right.
What about actual speaking practice?
Yeah, that's obviously crucial too.
Like, how do we get more of that?
Well, I think the best way to improve your speaking is to find opportunities to use English in real life situations.
Okay, so like talking to native speakers?
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be anything formal or intimidating.
Oh.
You can just start by having small conversations with people you meet.
Okay, like at the grocery store or something?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're traveling, you can try ordering food in English or asking for directions.
So just like little things here and there.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become.
Gotcha.
And the more confident you'll feel.
Okay, cool. And I imagine all those techniques we talked about earlier, like shadowing and active listening, can help with that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are all great ways to prepare yourself for real-life conversations.
Awesome. So it's like everything we've talked about today kind of works together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Cool.
And I think the most important thing is to just keep practicing and keep learning.
Right. Never give up.
Exactly. Yeah, fluency is a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
And it's a journey that's full of challenges and rewards.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed talking about this stuff with you.
Me too. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
And remember, keep practicing your English.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.